A Night Out, a short story written and narrated by Robert Fairhead from the Tall and True writer's website. Their eyes locked across the crowded room at the cocktail bar. He looked well-heeled and handsome, and his brazen gaze told her he knew it. But she was his equal, with pert features and confidence. They raised their glasses to each other and soon found themselves shoulder to shoulder at the bar. "Hello, I haven't seen you here before," he said, deep voice booming over the noisy crowd. She leaned closer to him and explained, "I've been overseas. This is my first day out of quarantine since flying back." "Well, that's worth celebrating," he said, smiling broadly. "Can I buy you a cocktail?" "That would be charming. Yes, please," she responded, flashing her perfect white teeth. Are you here with friends?" he asked, his eyes darting briefly from her teeth to her breasts. She noted his covert glance and replied, "No, I don't know anyone in town. I flew back here for quarantine, and after 14 days in a tiny hotel room, I needed a night out." "What a coincidence! I'm here on my own tonight too," he said, signalling the barman. "Let's find somewhere quiet to talk." She nodded and followed as he parted the crowd, carrying their drinks out onto a balcony. "That's better," he said, handing her a cocktail. "Here's to freedom and fresh air. Cheers." "Chin chin," she reciprocated, and they clinked glasses. He introduced himself, a corporate lawyer, recently divorced, and learning to socialise again. "I work long hours, and before the pandemic, I was always away on business," he explained. "My wife and I drifted apart, but fortunately, we don't have kids. And you?" "No children either," she replied flatly, and sipped her cocktail. His smile slipped, replaced by a faint flush of embarrassment. "No, sorry," he blurted, suddenly sounding nervous. "I meant, what were you doing overseas?" She burst out laughing. "I know what you meant," she teased. "I was a New York barista." "Oh, that's interesting," he said, and attempted to get back on the front foot. "There should be plenty of opportunities for you back here." "I hope so," she responded, and they sipped their cocktails without talking for a few minutes, staring at the city lights. "I am sorry," he said, breaking the silence. "I didn't mean to pry. As I said, I'm learning to socialise again." She clinked his cocktail glass and laughed, restoring his smile and swagger. They shared several more cocktails on the balcony before he invited her back to his apartment for a nightcap. "I'm sure you'll find it more spacious than your tiny hotel room," he joked. She laughed again and agreed to one nightcap. "And a coffee," she added, "but I'll make it, because I'm the barista." Later, after he'd passed out from the drug she had slipped into his espresso, she ransacked the apartment, packing one of his suitcases with pawnable items. She smiled. Tonight's haul would do nicely, until her next night out, hunting for overconfident, well-heeled prey. Hi, I'm Robert Fairhead from Tall and True Short Reads and the Tall and True Writers website. A Night Out was my 18th entry for the Australian Writer Centre's short story writing competition, Furious Fiction, in November 2021. The story had to include someone packing a suitcase, the phrase "across a crowded room" as dialogue or narrative, the words charm, crush, and faint. Longer variations were permitted, as long as they retained the original spelling. Packing a suitcase and across a crowded room suggested several romantic plots, likely involving a broken relationship. And that was the premise of November's winning Furious Fiction story, with the protagonist watching his partner pack her suitcase. But I recall being burgled in Bondi in the mid-1980s, and how the thief used one of my bags to carry off my goods and chattels. And it occurred to me I could combine a romantic night out in a crowded cocktail bar with a twist ending for the suitcase. Finding places for the required words in the cocktail bar setting was straightforward. However, the story's point of view shifted between the first and final drafts. In the first draft, the point of view was third-person omniscient. As in the final draft, I didn't dwell on the characters' internal thoughts, but I portrayed them equally in narrative and dialogue. While editing the story, I realised I needed to emphasise my female protagonist's actions and words, and so the point of view became third person limited. Apart from the point of view, the most significant change in the story between drafts was the female protagonist's occupation while overseas. Initially I had her in public relations, a play on words for the sting she was hatching, but I thought a barista would have more chance of slipping something into a late night coffee back at the apartment. I hope you enjoyed A Night Out and the Nightcap Twist. You can read this and all my short stories, blog posts and other writing at tallandtrue.com. You can also buy my short story collections from the Amazon Kindle and Kobo online bookstores. Links are available in the show notes. The next episode of Tall and True Short Reads will be in your podcast feed shortly. In the meantime, please browse your feed or the podcast website, tallandtrueshortreads.com, for earlier episodes from seasons 1 and 2. And follow or subscribe to the podcast and rate and review it via your favourite app. Doing so helps me share my writing with other listeners. You can support this podcast by making a small one-off or regular donation via the Acast supporter page. You'll find a link in the show notes. And finally, please tell your family and friends about Tall and True Short Reads and the Tall and True Writers website.